are listening to SportsOvertime.com. Your blood, our sweat, your tears. No, that's not it. You are listening to SportsOvertime.com, where the clock doesn't matter.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual hosts, their guests, and callers do not necessarily reflect those of SportsOvertime.com, the Miami Media School, or its affiliates and sponsors.
You're listening to Off the Deep End, where we discuss conspiracies, the people who love them, aliens, and a little spirituality. I'm your host, Emmy, and welcome to our show. Welcome to the show. Once again, this is your host, Emmy, and we are interviewing a wonderful guest that I know personally through the spirituality community. She is the host of Languages of Light. She is a telepathic channeler, I believe, and she has a great YouTube channel. It's called Language of Light, where she often has updates on what's going on with our galactic families and changes in our world. So, without further ado, welcome Wendy Wolfe.
Hi, Emmy. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm very excited and very excited to have this venue. I'm also happen to be a sports fan, so pretty excited. I come from the Chicago area, so I'm a Chicago Bears football fan and a Chicago Cubs baseball fan, and all of it, Bulls and all of the above. So we have I'm fortunate to come from an area where sports is a big part of the Chicago lifestyle. Because obviously we have a lot of sports teams.
Yes, of course. And I guess this is a good way, a good opportunity to parlay how this fits into the sports world and how our sports listeners can benefit from our conversations. We try to keep a little segue for them just to keep them going.
Yeah, exactly. And I've been thinking about a lot about this because as you do different, when you talk to different people in different arenas of, it is interesting how spirituality seems so separate, but yet it is truly an integral part of everything because it's a part of everything, because everything's a part of everything.
Yes.
And so I often will ask myself what would be the most informational and of the most interest to those who are listening. And one of the things I have to say is, as strange as this sounds, one of the most spiritual experiences I've ever had has been going and being a part of being in an NFL stadium, for example, or even being at a baseball game. But for some reason, I don't know what it is. And I've done both. And I've been to basketball, NBA games. And NHL. I've been to only one. I've only been to one hockey game. But but the point is for some reason, when I've been to Bears games, and this has been more than once, it's a combination of a lot of things. Let me start with the parking lot. As soon as we get there. We're the kind of fans, we've been season ticket holders for decades and for the Chicago Bears. So when we get there, we're there up in the, for a noon game. Now I grew up about an hour north of the northern suburbs of Chicago. So I'm pretty close to Lake Michigan. And if anybody knows Chicago and knows Soldier Field, it's right on the lake. It's right on Lake Michigan. It's actually a beautiful venue now. And so we are up at 6 a.m, out at 7 to meet our friends at 8 a.m. And we arrive at the gate as soon as the parking lot opens at 8 a.m. We are the tailgaters. We are the ones who are out there putting up the flags, setting up our food, and for a noon game. And, we don't get home until late in the evening. And the reason I even bring that up is because the whole ritual of it, that in of itself is such a camaraderie that it's really no different than the camaraderie, isn't it, that we look for in any other area of our life, whether it's family, friends, our religious, sectors, that we're all looking for support, and we're all looking for like-minded people, right, to make us feel good and comfortable and fun to be around.
Yes, exactly.
And I think it makes us, so even doing something like that, say on a Sunday, really sets off your week in a great way, because you're spending it with friends, you're doing you're having fun, you're at ease, there is no resistance. And so you're having a really good time with these people that, and the thing is that about the camaraderie part, even if you're in the middle of this huge parking lot, the energy is unbelievable, because, and it doesn't matter whether because you've got opposing teams hanging out together, playing ball together in the parking lot, hanging out. I mean, it's all about the camaraderie, and it's not about the competition, and a lot of times I think people look at sports fans as being mean or really competitive, and yes, it does. Of course, it brings that out in us. I think that goes back from our, whatever you want to call it. I don't believe in the past. I believe that everything is happening concurrently, simultaneously, and everything is now.
Yeah.
But the point is that you're all together, and you all understand that it's all a game, and at the end of the day, the players on the field are still friends. Yes. They still go home. They still are buddies. They still have family picnics together. It doesn't matter what team they're on. They're just people. And I think this is part of the message with sports is, and think of the Olympics. Think of how we all are, those of us who enjoy that, are glued to the Olympics. It doesn't matter what country you come from. You're saluting everybody out there. You are cheering everybody on, especially the ones who are, they're not in it for, it's all about the competition, of course, and the gold and the silver. But at the end of the day, it's about their own accomplishment.
Yes.
That at the end of the day, you feel, I don't care how big of a guy you are. I bet you all of them out there have had a tear in their eye at one point or another, watching a football game, a baseball game, any other game, the Olympics. We relate to that. We relate on a human level, that accomplishment, that look what I did with all the practice. Spirituality is no different. It's the same thing. But back to the camaraderie at the stadium itself. So, you're hanging out with all these people that you don't even really know, yet there is a friendship and a kinship that's it's unspoken. You're alive with this energy that I can't even tell you the energy. And as the parking lot fills, the energy gets stronger and stronger. And even talking about it, my whole body's like buzzing, because you've got the sounds and the music and the people and the smells, and of course if we could see our energy. I just heard this the other day. I think our friend Bree told me about it, but that our energy field actually goes out. I believe it's 55 feet. So can you imagine if all of these people are in this place together, and all of our auras and our energies are reaching out 55 feet? We are enveloping each other in this energy. So now you're walking in, you're walking up to the stadium, and then just the bewilderment of the beauty of the building and the energy, and people walking in and filling the seats and filling the stadium. And there is that part of us that when you grow up in a country where patriotism isn't it almost synonymous with sports?
Yeah.
In some way, you know what I mean?
It's like the most patriotic seem to be also sports fans.
Right. Because you get there and, you stand, you take your hat off, you are singing the national anthem. I probably cry almost every time. Now, I can't explain that, and I'm not even the particularly necessarily what you would call a patriotic person, but I do hang a flag in my hall, but I also have new thoughts about that too. I really truly believe that we just need one flag, and it's just a humanity flag. We are humans.
Yes.
I really, really don't believe that we need to identify ourselves as separate countries by way of a flag, because to me, and this is just an opinion, to me, it still symbolizes separation.
Yes, or even colors or ethnicities.
Yes, label. Yes,
or labels, and then they separate us, and and a lot of the times, what happens in our different countries is that those labels are used to, further divide us, into the him versus her, them versus us, what they're doing to us, and it's just causing a lot of fear and negativity towards each other.
And symbols are very powerful, aren't they? And
symbols too.
We can get into the galactic symbols a little later if you want to, but the point is symbols are very powerful. So you see the symbol of a flag of a particular country, and pertaining to what you just brought up, and that you see a flag, and don't you immediately, doesn't something come to your mind as far as judgment?
Yes, especially depending on how those flags are represented and the intention behind it. Like, for example, the Russian flag, what does that equate to, even though maybe their system has evolved, communism? And then the Red Scare, when during the McCarthy era, where everybody was scared of the Russians and the nuclear warfare from the Russians. And
the swastika wasn't meant to be used in a negative sense ever. If you go back and look on,
everywhere throughout the world.
That's symbols. Yes, that's symbols all over the world. And it has nothing to do with how it was represented. But now that is a very good point of what a strong symbol that is now, and what negative connotations it has now. And it's nothing more than a belief. If you change the belief, you change all of it. So as soon as and this is what spirituality and oneness is all about. Understanding that everything affects everything. You're connected to everything. Your thoughts create your reality.
Yes.
If you change your thought, change your belief. And as soon as we change our belief, our reality changes, doesn't it? Because as soon as you change your thought and your belief about that flag, the reality and the way you feel about your world changes. Exactly. And so I realize that we've kind of gone off a little bit on the whole flag
we can go off
singularity thing, but
we can go wherever you want to go.
But the point is when you are in that stadium and you're standing there singing that song, you're still feeling that. I think it goes, you know what it is to me? I think it goes beyond the whole. I think we understand, even when we're standing there singing that song to our very own countries and honoring our country, we are giving gratitude for where we are, where our higher selves have placed us in that part of the world.
Yeah.
We're giving honor to the place that we live. We're giving honor to the symbol that symbolizes that place that our higher selves has chosen for us to explore in that now. But I think it goes beyond that. I think when we're all standing there and our energy is just pulsating with each other's energy, and our hearts are beating, and we're waiting for the game to start, and we're excited, I think really we are transcending we transcend truly the country. I think when we're feeling that feeling, and it brings that choked up feeling and that tear to your eye, we're feeling what it feels like to be connected to humanity, to everything.
And transcending our differences.
Whatever. Yes, despite your differences, despite what team you're on, despite what color you're wearing today, despite what color you are, we are a melding of energy in those games, and it doesn't matter. And I think that you feel that camaraderie, it just sends ripples of love through you that, and then the game starts, and then of course, the the sides take hold, and the energy builds for each color or each team. But yet you realize at the end of the day, it is still a game, and no matter, somebody's gonna what you call win, and somebody's what you call lose at the end of the game. That's the way it goes. And everybody understands that. And don't we kind of do that anyway in our own lives? Don't we go through life going, okay, if I make that decision and do that thing, it's either going to go one way or another. It's going to go the way I expect or not, the way I don't expect. But either way, isn't it the best thing ever? Because no matter which way, it still points you in a new direction, to a better way.
Or in that realization, you know that you are going to handle it in one way or another.
Exactly. And then if you do it, and then if that situation arises again, you go, okay, perhaps I should try this a new way. If the result didn't create the reality I desired the last time, maybe I should try it a new way. And this goes with anybody. I don't care who you are listening, whether you're vacuuming the floor of the building, or you own the building and you're the president of the company or the CEO, or if you own a sports team, it doesn't matter. The decisions we make and the lives that we live and the relationships that we have are no different. And this is the one thing that has astounded me and delighted me to actually validate the thing that I've known all along as a child, that everything is connected and what you do affects everything. Even if you don't understand or see the direct correlation of what your actions do, everything changes everything. It's just like a clock. Every single cog changes every single cog, which changes all of time.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing I wanted to add, since you mentioned the sports team owner versus the guy mopping the floor, is that, at least for me, when I guess ventured into the spiritual path, I came to the realization that everybody is here, everybody who's here, everybody's important. Everybody and everything is here to help us. And then looking at people wherever they are, without judgment, because whatever they're going through, whatever they're doing or manifesting in their life, it's the way it's supposed to be for them,
Yes, it's perfect. And it's difficult.
And that help me respect people even more wherever they're at. And then also force myself to kind of look at, things that bother me about people. Like, why does that bother me?
Exactly. That's a very good point, because why does that bother you? Why does that bother us? One of the first Reiki principles is I will not be angry. And a lot of times we get angry and we have to ask ourselves, wait a second, what's really bothering me here? It's not unconditional love is loving your conditions around you, despite just loving your life despite the conditions around you. So to be able to look at that person and go, okay, what is it really that's bothering me about the person that's a reflection of what it is that I need to see inside myself that I'm getting angry about that I don't want to. I don't want to look at it. So it sparks something inside of us. We're not angry at them. We're angry at something completely and utterly that has zero to do with them. They're just a reflection.
Yes.
And once we begin to understand that we're all reflections of each other, you embrace that person because you realize you're angry at you. They're just a reflection. And getting angry at another person and taking and expelling that negative energy outward, as we know, has detrimental effects not only on our own physical and mental and spiritual well-being, but it has ripple effects on the outside world. And I had a thought this morning when I was making my bed that how just the simple act of making your bed in the morning really kind of sets the intention for the day to kind of clean up it kind of, first I start with thanking myself for actually even having a bed. If you could start with gratitude as soon as you wake up in the morning, how many of us actually open our eyes in the morning, think about what we have to do in a day, and we're pissed before we even hit the floor?
Oh, I used to be that way.
Seriously. I mean, how many of us have done it? Me too.
I'm coming out of my dreams thinking of all of the things that I need to do that I don't like.
That I don't want to do. And so it sets the day right away that, okay, and within an hour, your day can get pretty jacked up pretty quick. You know what I mean? If we allow that energy to build, because then you're angry at things that have nothing really to do with anything, you're mad at yourself because probably you're not following your joy. You're going to a job you don't like, or you have situations or decisions you have to make, whatever things you have to do you don't want to do. The list goes on and on. But to be able to look at those day-to-day things with gratitude, in that, how can I be grateful for that someone in my family is sick, or that we had this hardship? Well, because it was created for you by you on a higher level to help you to understand something. And it's pretty tough to wrap our minds around that as humans, that we create our own stuff. We don't really want to take responsibility for that. But once we start to understand, it starts as soon as it starts before you go to sleep with your intentions. And then it starts again when you wake up. And you'd be amazed how when you do it before you go to sleep, how it changes how you feel when you wake up. Because you sort of wake up in a new, okay, I don't need to look at that thing that I just thought of as negative. I can look at it in a different way. So how can I change this so that within the next 30 minutes, I don't, get mad at everything in the world and get late for work, stuck in traffic, can't find a space, looking for excuses now because I'm late for work. I'm upset. I've spilled my coffee. I'm dirty before I get there. You know what I mean? We've all been there. I was in the business customer service world, computer related, worked in the car business. I was a computer support specialist. I've always been in upper middle management. Usually with companies of about 100 employees or less. I've worked for companies as up to a couple hundred, maybe 100 employees, and then down to, we were in an office. I worked in an office as small as I think there was maybe 5 or 6 of us, where I was pretty much running the whole show. But the point is just like we were talking about earlier, once you start to understand that everybody has an equal, I like to imply equal, because we are not less than another and we are not more than another. We are all equal. And that goes with everything. That goes with all your ETs, your spirit guides, the angels. They're here to support and help us, but they're our equal. Completely and utterly. And anybody who starts to thinking about channeling or light languages or extraterrestrials or aliens or first contact, we have to begin to understand that to begin with, is we're all equal.
Yes.
No matter what realm you're on, it doesn't matter. Nothing needs to be worshipped, and no one. That's not what this is about. Spirituality is so above all of that. That's where we have it all wrong. All of those barriers dissolve. There is no hierarchy. There is no, I say, you follow. It doesn't work that way. And anybody who's out there doing something otherwise is not really walking in their own integrity. Because you understand, if you're a true healer, just like if those out there who do follow, which I didn't grow up religious at all. I mean, not even a little. But I grew up, my parents were. I was also a product of that 60s because my parents were of the 40s and 50s age, where children are seen and not heard. You are respectful. You are quiet. You don't cry. You don't get excited. You don't jump up and down. You don't squeal. You don't run around. You know what I mean? You said
seen
please.
And not
you
heard.
Said thank you. Yes, exactly. I mean, you walked the line. You know what I mean? And if you didn't, you learned. So I also learned very early on to squelch my feelings because of that. And you do that, and then at school, you're not allowed to.
Yeah.
So I learned early on a lot of things, very quickly but what I didn't understand was why nobody got it. Why didn't even all the adults get it? That it was almost as if I was a counselor. Even as a child, even adults would come to me for guidance and information. And I thought, well, that's kind of strange. You know what I mean? I was like, what's up with that? I mean, and I came from a product of a broken, I don't want to call it a broken home. My parents were divorced when I was 6. And so we moved a lot. Mom had to do the double 2 jobs. And so I was raised with a lot of responsibility, but you learn very early on that, adults don't have it. They don't have the answers either. And when you start to realize that as a kid, it kind of leaves you in a place of going back inside yourself to say, okay, it looks like the strength needs to come from in here, because apparently I'm not going to get it from out there. I'm not going to get this, the support. I'm not going to get, and every time somebody would say, well, tell your teacher how you really feel about it. Well, all they did was go back and tell my parents, and then all I did was get punished.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was like this weird, vicious circle of jacked up.
Yeah, exactly.
And church didn't help. They couldn't answer any of my questions. The Bible didn't answer my questions. All it did was confuse me. Every time I would ask a pastor a question, my mom was Lutheran. My parents were Lutheran. We didn't really go to church. It was just that was their upbringing. We went when I was little. It was like the Sunday school dress up. The whole 9 years. But after that, we moved around so much after my parents divorced that we were apartment dwellers, and my mom worked a bunch of jobs, so there wasn't a lot of time for that. You know what I mean? And she was trying to support us, and so there wasn't a lot of time for spirituality and support and tenderness. And so you learn in that kind of an environment, you learn to kind of look inward. And that's when I started to understand. Oh, and one thing I wanted to mention too is that I've always been very interested in things like mythology, and the ability to use your mind. And I felt like I was always connected to the angels. I felt like I always had a guardian angel. I always would tell people that, well, just talk to your guardian angels. They'll help you. It was like I always knew, that there was something there supporting me, but it didn't quite go with the whole depiction of what I had been taught about God. And so none of it really sat with me. So I really didn't, well, you must be an atheist. Well, you must be agnostic. I'm like, no, I'm really not any of those. What I believe is we're all connected and we're all created from the same one thing. And so far, I haven't seen anything that's really told me that, at least up until that point in my life. I did believe very highly, though, in the power of the mind and power of the thought. I had both of my children. I have 2 boys. I raised 2 boys. They're grown men now. And even at the time when they were born, in the late 70s, early 80s, I had both of my children without any drugs at all. I went through Lamaze, the breathing techniques to go through childbirth with both of my children. And I had my Lamaze coach was my aunt, who at the time, she's since made her transition into non-physical reality. But she was the one who was my Lamaze coach the first time through. And she was also a clairvoyant, and she was a tarot card reader. She also channeled. My mom did tell me, my mom lost a brother at the age of 21. It was pretty tragic. Her brother had gotten married, and a month later, they both were killed in a car accident together. No. Yeah, so it was really tragic. They were very young, and so it was pretty, obviously very tragic and horrible for the family. A month later, you're at their wedding, and a month later, you're at their funeral. So my aunt had actually channeled him, and she was using a Ouija board at the time. And because that's kind of how they sort of connected back then, and her house that we lived with them for a while, and her house was haunted. And I mean, no doubt about it. There was physical evidence, and you could hear them in the night. She was very connected. And now that I've gotten older, I've started to understand, now that both her and her sister are gone, my mom's aunts, now that they're gone, I'm starting to understand a lot of things that they were into. I think that now I get it, that they couldn't talk about. Because think about how even today people are still fearful about speaking about their own spirituality and channeling.
Or the different interpretations on what's evil, depending on what religious filter you grew up with. Like astrologers are evil, channelers are evil, tarot cards evil, Ouija's evil. Right. Then so you learn it's just all intentions. And
so you can imagine their reluctance back in the 60s, 70s, and to talk about this stuff out loud, even to their own family. And this is why I laugh now, because now I'm so mad. I'm like, well, how come she didn't tell us? How come they didn't? But look at me. My family doesn't even know about any of this with me. They don't know I speak light languages. They don't know we're having this conversation.
Oh,
So
wow.
this is no. And this is what's so funny about here I am now. Okay, so there was a lot of things that transpired in my life that brought me to looking for spirituality. One of them was I had a bunch of physical, I had a bunch of surgeries, rotator cuff surgery. So anybody out there who's in the sports world who's had a rotator cuff surgery can cringe right along with me, because I had 6 of them, and it was grueling over 10 years. But you know what? That really was part of what brought me to the idea of looking for natural pain relief, because you do realize that, you know, the pain meds out there, that, you know, it's none of it's good for you. And we already know that we don't need to get into any of that. But the point is my body was screaming for pain relief, but natural pain relief. And I started to really more explore astrology, spirituality, meditation, holistic, aromatherapy, reflexology. Then I started finding things about Reiki. But there was this whole other side of my life, though, that all of me was yearning for something more. I was always a poet. I was writing poetry from the time I was 10 years old. I was always connected to angels. I was always talking and writing about the esoteric, about time. I loved the idea of time travel.
So you were being called to, like, basically walking your light.
Oh yes, I grew up with the idea I could talk to any animal, any tree. I could talk to anything. I believed I could speak to anything. I believed that we all could, but we all just didn't remember we could. I knew I could. I was certain of it, without a shadow of doubt. So I think that might have been why my offices, no matter where I worked, were always filled with people coming in. Do you have a few minutes? Because could we close the door? I really need to talk to you. I have this feeling that you might be able to help me. I don't even know these people. You know, so I think those people sort of, you know, when you have that sort of air about you, that people sort of come to you with their situations, because, and it wasn't pity. It wasn't because I was a gossiper. It was because most of my jobs I had to keep to myself, because you know, you're privileged to have certain information in the company. So you have to you become where you, but you're still, it's not like you're better than them. They understand you have a position and that there's information you can't share. But I also treated everybody equally. That was the biggest point of this, is that it didn't matter where I worked, because I treated the owner of the company the same way I treated the guy who emptied the trash. Not kidding. Because I see his value. If he doesn't empty the trash builds up and everybody gets cranky because there's trash everywhere.
Yes.
Well, isn't that how our life is? And it could be physical trash in your home, or it could be spiritual trash. It could be mental trash. It doesn't matter what it is. But it changes your frequency. And when you change your frequency, you change your reality. So think about it. If your house and your mind and if your life and your spirits are cluttered, you feel out of whack. And this is where all that other stuff comes in. Reiki, meditation. You know, if everybody who had an ailment if every doctor told a person, first I want you for 30 days to do 30 minutes of exercise. I want you to do 30 minutes of sitting quietly by yourself. And I also want you to do 30 minutes of being in nature. And I want you to come back to me in 30 days and tell me you don't feel better. At least feel better.
Yeah, that would change a lot.
It would change everything, because people would realize that. I mean, I was able to eliminate all pharmaceutical medication. When I do take any kind of medication for any kind of pain relief, it's holistic. I truly believe in a combination of everything. And I'm not saying everybody should dump their medicine. I'm saying start with that stuff. You will begin to be able to replace it. will begin to automatically, your body will start to respond, and you will automatically begin to replace those things with new things. And you start to understand that everything on the planet here was given to us there's not a single thing, everything pharmaceutical is synthesized after something that came on the planet, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
So
I'm glad that you're discussing this.
What do you mean? Why would we go back to the lab? Now, I get it. People want to take a pill. They don't want to grow a plant. They don't want to smash it up. They don't want to drink the tea. But you know what? When I had my kid, I was the mom who I stayed home until they were in school full time. Finances, we needed a bigger house. I went to work when they went to school full time. But I really wanted to be home, and we didn't have any money. I mean, my husband had a great job with the electric company, but I wanted to be home. And truly, he really didn't want me to work. But you know how that goes. But and I wouldn't have if I didn't have to. But the point is when I was home with my kids, there was no Kool-Aid in my house. There was no, you know what I mean? It was, and even though we didn't have a lot of money, I understood how to make healthy foods the best that I could with what we could afford. And so, but I also made my own like facial masks, for example. I would use eggs and honey, and I would put goopy crap in my hair. I mean, I was literally the flower child of the 60s, and to touch on that just a bit too, I came from that era where I came off of the Vietnam War era and the flower power and peace and love. And when the and I don't even know if you even know the song, but the Age of Aquarius, we're in the Age of Aquarius right now. And I think everybody on the planet knows that song. Yeah. Funny, it's also called, the name of the group was also The Fifth Dimension, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah.
When that song came out,
predictive
even as
programming, little predictive seed planting.
And what's interesting about that is I remember vividly the first time seeing them perform that song on a television show when I was a kid. I wept uncontrollably. What kid does that? What kid walks in nature and cries at the gratitude of trees? And I could not stand being in school because all I wanted to do was be outside. I understood that the real education I needed was not in the classroom, it was outside of the classroom. I suffered through school, and I was a good student. I was a great student, and I was almost straight A's all up until they even wanted to up me a grade. But my parents, I started school young as it was because I was just too inquisitive. So they didn't really want to bump me up because then I was really going to be younger than my peers. But you know what? I was so much older than them. In my mind, I was bored with them. You know what I mean? It was just like it was almost as if all the things that were important to them were just so unimportant to me. But I didn't allow myself to play either because, having to be a responsible kid, and I grew up in an alcoholic home. But you know what? That was part of my training for today too, because my mom and I used to speak at open meetings. The AA, Alateen, Al-Anon, I don't know if anybody's familiar with the 12-step program, but
yeah, I'm familiar with it.
On like what they would do on Saturday nights, they would have what they would call an open meeting, and you would have the whole room full of people. We would travel. I mean, we would literally, Mom and I would travel from club to club, Al-Anon club to Al-Anon club, and we would actually do open meetings speaking, and I would do my Alateen side and my Al-Anon side and what it was like to grow up, and she would do her AA side. I mean, it takes big people to be able to do that, not only with each other, and to be honest, in a room full of people, and to bear your life in front of a bunch of people like that, and to say with your mother in the room how much it hurt, and how much to listen to her, and how much, so anyway, we don't need to get into that, but I believe that it really was part of the whole development for me for showing people their own power, their own light, their own, I'm not, it's not like I'm here to do this for you. I'm here to show you your own light, your own power. We all are created in the image of God, and almost every religion and everything above religion will tell you that because you are creating your reality minute by moment by moment. And if you want to get into the physics of it all, we're traveling moment by moment, billions of times per second through parallel realities.
Mm-hmm.
Picking and choosing moment by moment what we want to focus on and putting it together like a slideshow that we call our life. So we can get very, you can get into the physics here, but do you see how it doesn't matter what subject you talk about, everything is connected to everything, and everything affects everything.
Yes.
And so when you walk out the door in the morning and you've allowed yourself to get pissed off and get all tied up in a bunch, and you go to the corner grocery store, or you stop at the gas station and you got a long line, and then you go to the person at the counter and they're grouchy as hell. And now you say to yourself, well, I wonder what happened to them. What bug is up their butt today? How come they're so crabby? Oh, really?
Yeah, and you're like, have you looked in the mirror?
They're having the same kind of life you are, because they're people, just like you are. So now
they're showing you yourself.
And they're showing you yourself. So now when you go to that grocer, that gas station, and you bring the best of you, and you say to that person, good morning, hi, how are you today? And you have a smile on your face. Do you know that every person that they interact with after that, their whole aura has changed, their whole frequency has changed, and every single person that they dealt with, they are going to change, all because of you. You are the ripple that you don't even see.
Yeah. I also want to discuss the power of words, because many of us don't realize how important they are, and how the words we speak and what we do, since we are creator beings, how we command events in our reality by our words. Like, for example, when you're saying, oh, I feel sick, or I'm dumb, or I'm fat, I'm this. When you're saying these words, preceded by the words I am, being that you are a creator, you are manifesting things in your reality without even thinking about it.
And it's true, because what a dumbass I am. And I even catch myself, I really do. We all do it. And the thing is look at what we do to our own kids, and what we do to our own family, and first of all, by saying something to ourselves out loud, vibration is I am that I am. So whatever I just said, I believe that I am.
Yeah.
Now, when someone else hears you say that, it carries a vibration with, wow, that person doesn't like themselves very much. Ooh, that makes me feel something like I don't like about myself. Ooh, I don't like that either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for children, if you are a parent and you are saying these things to yourself out loud, you have no idea the impact that you are having on your child, because one, they're confused because they look up to you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're calling yourself stupid, they're going, oh my God, what do I do? My parents are stupid. Now what do I do? So first of all, you give them a vibration of discomfort and lack of support immediately. Second of all, you give them the permission to grow up treating themselves that way. And I don't care what YouTube channel or community you belong to, isn't know thyself and loving thyself the first and foremost thing that everybody can't figure out how to do?
To thine own self be true.
Thine own self be true. If it feels good for you, then go do it. If you're not doing it and you're ugly and resentful because you're not doing it, you got nobody to be angry about but you, because you create your own reality. And you can blame everybody on the outside all you want. Well, I can't do that because of them. I can't do that because I can't move. I can't do that because I can't do that. Well, it's because you can't. It's because you say I can't.
And the universe is always in agreement with you. Whatever it is, it's going to be yes. It's always going to be yes. So if you're saying I am fat, ugly, poor, whatever, they're going to be yes, 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 as opposed to thank you for bringing me all your blessings, and I'm grateful for all of the wonderful things I have. Even though, you're working on getting that, then they'll say yes, 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 and you'll manifest that into your reality.
typical people, when we think about working on getting that, where I'll be happy when I get that. I'll be happy when I get that. What people don't understand is as soon as you see it in your mind and you think it, it already exists. It's done. All you got to do now is stop keeping it away from you by becoming the frequency of its doneness. And when we say that, that means getting excited about thinking about it. How will I live? Where will I live? What's it going to be like? And as soon as you start getting excited about it, your universe starts to put things in your path by way of synchronicity to show you're in harmony with that vibration, and it's bringing you closer to it and closer to it and closer to it. And it's going to happen without you even realizing it, just by saying it and believing it and letting it go and believing that everything I do is going to bring me toward that. And so every day I ask myself, I have a little mantra that I say that I love that I heard through another channeler, Abraham Hicks, and where Esther Hicks, Abraham says by Theo. It's a statement by Theo, and I like to say it. It says, I, and then you put your name in there. I, Wendy, see and draw to me through divine love those beings who seek enlightenment from my process. Sharing will elevate us both down. And that was written by a being called Theo a long, long time ago. And I love that saying. And then I also love the Reiki principles, which are very simple, which are, just for today, I will not be angry. Just for today, I will not worry. Just for today, I will be grateful. Just for today, I will do my work honestly. And just for today, I will, oh crap, what's the last one? I always do that. I was like, I always forget one. See, and then I see we create our own reality.
Yeah, and then sometimes there's like, depending on which kind of Reiki, I guess,
that's
principle.
Reiki, yeah.
It's like, I don't know, 5 or 6 or.
But that was written by Mikao Usui, so that does follow the Usui Reiki principle. So yes, I will, But with that said too, those things led me to looking for something that was missing in my life, and I always was those people too who followed the number thing. Like 1111 was always my number, and actually my birth path number is 11. I was always interested in like astrology and numerology.
Yeah, me too.
And so my birthday date actually equals 11, and so I started getting really interested many years ago into astrology and numerology about how it lines up with like your sun signs and your moon signs and your birth path and what it means. And so I started looking this up, and one day I was just desperate. I had retired from my job and was just looking for all of this and that was probably about 5 years ago. I was just looking for just pain relief and just, I don't know what, and I started looking up 1111 just on the internet. And all of a sudden, I started to find all this stuff about light workers. Mm-hmm. And then everything they said, like, described my whole life. And then all I did was cry and cry and cry and cry with this realization that, oh my gosh, everything I ever thought is right here in front of me. They're telling me this is my path. I see it now. I get it. I'm here to do something. And I kept writing in my journals. I'm a journaler, too. I've got crates filled with my journals from over the years. Mm-hmm. And I remember writing in my journals, and I was channeling way back before I even understood. Now I get it. And now I understand I was channeling even then. But I didn't know it. And I was always writing in journals and about, I know I'm here for something bigger. I feel like I have there's a higher part of me. I don't know. It was just always like this higher connection, like there's something somebody wants to say through me and I can't get it out. I don't know what it is. And I feel like I'm here for a bigger message. It was just kind of that way for me. It was very, very, very strong. And I always had a very powerful emotional response to music, art, dance. I can't even walk in a art museum without feeling the energy from all the painters. It literally seizes me in energy because it's so beautiful. I mean, it's because I can feel the energy of all the artists, and it sends me weeping. Mm-hmm. So amazing. So I've always understood I've had this very strange emotional response to things that other people didn't have, but I didn't really understand why. And then when I started finding all this stuff out, and then the very first time I heard Seth, some astrology person had put on their website a little clip from Seth. For anybody out there, Seth Speaks, and it was channeled through Jane Roberts many, many, many years ago, one of the first channelers. And I heard the word Seth. He was saying something like, you create your own reality. And there was a couple of sentences, and it freaked me out so bad I shut off the computer. I was like, what was that? It woke me up. Something happened in me. And it was the first time I've ever heard the words that ever made any sense to me. So it took me about a week to go back and listen to the whole clip again. And when I did, I started to cry and cry and cry. And then I started just looking on the internet, and I started finding things, one thing after another. And I started finding channelers. And I don't know how, but I found Bashar, channeled by Daryl Anka. And I knew immediately I was Sasani. I don't know how. I knew immediately I was Sasani. I knew I was a first contact specialist. I knew I was a galactic ambassador. I knew I was traveling. I knew I had hybrid children. It all was like a massive download. In a week's time, my whole life changed. Now, I was alone through all this. I talked to nobody. None of my family knew. My husband did not know. No one knew. And I absorbed everything I could find related to Bashar and channeling. And then I found, all the other channelers. I found Daniel Scranton, Nora Harold, Wendy Kennedy, Aishawa, Sean Swanson, Roxanne Swainhart. I found, then I came upon Human Colony. I found Jim Charles. Then I started listening to the Hangouts, and I started listening to the languages, and something snapped in me, and something clicked, and I said, oh my God, that's it. I travel to different planets, and I'm an ambassador. Somehow I know I go and greet people and meet people and bring people together. And I'm in all these council meetings, and I am part of all these councils. I don't even know how to explain what happened to me. It was like a flood of this information and downloads and DNA information. And so I started hanging out in the light language hangouts, and I didn't talk at first. I just listened. And then one day they asked me if I wanted to start speaking or if I wanted to try, and it just fell out of my mouth. It was like, now I had a girlfriend in school who, when I was a little kid, my best friend, who talked to me a little bit about speaking in tongues, but I didn't know anything about it, didn't understand it. And I've only recently, in the last 2 weeks, even researched it because so many people have asked me about it. Well, you speak light languages. What's different than speaking in tongues? And according to the dictionary Wikipedia, there's no difference. And I'm just going to leave it at that because I don't really know anything more about it. However, when I came upon it, what I felt and understood is that the angels and God were speaking through me, and I was in love. I had never felt such a big, enormous, unconditional love. I was in a puddle weeping on the floor because I felt like the angel wings were wrapped around me telling me, your job has just begun. And
wow.
I know. And how do you even, you know what I mean? How do you explain that to somebody? How do you even begin to talk to somebody about that? Even your own spouse. And so I was alone. I went through this. Now, he was working an exceptional amount. He was just getting ready to retire from his job at the local electric company for 37 years. So he was working 16-hour days. I was in hangouts. Now, a bunch of our friends. We have a lot of mutual friends. So I was hanging out with all them guys for hours and hours, doing nothing but talk about this stuff and speak languages and then I started channeling. Then information started coming. And then one day I was walking my dog in the woods, and you can go back to the very first video I ever did. And it came, all of a sudden I hear this, hi, we are the emissaries of the Light Collective. And they went into this whole spiel about who they were. We are a representative from every realm. We are a collective from many, many civilizations and many, many realms that you don't even understand. We are in the dimensions, between the dimensions, and we are a collective consciousness of information that we have dedicated ourselves to the upliftment and the ascension of the human race and the planet Earth, and that we are here to assist you and like they're almost like, are you willing to receive this information? And what we'd like you to do is take your cell phone out of your pocket and start videotaping nature. You don't need to. I was petrified to be in front of an audience. I was in choir all my life, from 4th grade till I graduated high school, and then I was also in an adult choir. But I was petrified solo, petrified. Never would sing in front of a solo audience, but I was okay in the group. So I was like, okay, I am not going to be in front of the camera. And they're like, you don't need to be. What we want you to do is we want you to bring in to the human collective consciousness the correlation between the light codes, light information that comes from the sun, the trees, the moon, nature, flowers, the air, the elements, the elementals, spirit world, the Native American spirit world. It was like this big, massive download, all in about 5 minutes. So I pulled out my phone and I just started speaking languages while videotaping like trees and sky and whatever. And the weirdest part about it is most of the time my eyes are closed. So I don't even know what I'm looking at. So sometimes I have to concentrate on keeping my eyes open so that I'm not making the camera blurry or making people dizzy or so. And they're like, I said, well, I didn't know anything about Google or YouTube, nothing. I'd never even responded to anybody's YouTube channels. I was too afraid because I was afraid somebody in my family might find out. I don't know what I was thinking. So I said, well, I don't know anything about YouTube. And they said, well, you're gonna. And by the end of the day, I had a Google. I was already on Google, but I had a YouTube page, a YouTube channel, and I had already figured out how to upload my first video. I have no idea how I did it because I was so on tech. And that was it. And it started from there. And I just put it out there. And before I knew it, people were listening to the videos and listening. And then they started responding. And then more and more information would come through. And then Jim Charles, who is a dear friend of ours, who is the main channeler on Human Colony that you recently interviewed. Was it just a couple of weeks ago, right? And that was it. He started translating some of the galactic languages in the Saturday webinars that we have, and I was entranced in the fact that he could actually make sense of what I was saying. He actually could hear information. And then slowly the translations and the channeling started coming to me. And finally, and I also started connecting to other people in our community. I started connecting to them telepathically. I started seeing other timelines with them. I started seeing other lives with them. I started seeing hybrid children being generated with them.
That's amazing.
And then I started to find out other things through Jim Charles, through private sessions about that yes, I've been contacted by Bashar all my life. That yes, I am part of the Shikani channeling team. That yes, all this stuff that hasn't even really come out to light yet. So I haven't even really talked about any of this up to this point, to this degree. So,
well, thank you for bringing it up here.
But at any rate, it surprised me. And now, and it's languages of lights. There's an S on both of them because I asked them the day I did the YouTube channel. I said, well, what do you guys want me to call this? And they said, call it languages of lights, because light comes in every single form. We are light. Everything's energy. Everything's light. Everything is a language of light. The sun, the moon, everything we create in our reality, everything in nature, everything is light. Mm-hmm. When we look at the light that reflects off of anything, we are receiving information. We know this now because our technology has proven that we can send gobs of information through very, very fine cables of light, can't we? Mm-hmm. It's all just light. It's all data. It's all information. I find it interesting when one of my jobs was starting to do programming in Unix, and I had to learn how to read binary. code and have a count in binary. And it's interesting because now I get all these galactic symbols and I will actually get downloads in binary. Now, I don't know what they mean, but I see it. So I actually started writing all these galactic symbols now. I have pages and pages and pages of them that I post. It's like they give me all this information. It's like information from all these galaxies, all these planets. Half the time I don't even know what it is, but they're just telling me, put it out there. It's light codes. It's light language. All of it's light language. All of it's channeling from, we're all channeling. If we really understood, we are all channeling every minute of every day, because you're a light body in a three-dimensional focused skin, but you're still always and forever going to exist as a light body. So you right now, as we talk, we're simply channeling ourselves.
Mm.
Truly.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, I mean, really. So that's kind of in a nutshell how it all kind of came to pass. And to this day, every single day is a new adventure for me. I can't even believe how many people, I mean, I'm so in gratitude and in humble grace that there are, over 700 people subscribing to my channel. I have, people watch my stuff every day, and I can't even believe it myself. And sometimes I will go back and I don't watch any of my old videos, very rarely. I just put them out there and then I move on. But sometimes when somebody will comment on an old video, for example, and it opens up the video in order for you to respond, it just starts the video. And I will sometimes listen to some of my own messages, and I will actually cry at my own messages, because it's not me talking. Not really. I mean, the information that I'm receiving and giving, this information is for me too. This is always a two-way street. As we all know, everything's a reflection. So everything I'm receiving and sending out is I'm getting the same information they are. So they're telling me too, girl, you better be walking your talk, because, and talking your walk. I can't go out there and tell people how to live if I'm not living it. And so I really live this way. I mean, I spend as much time in nature as I can. I feel as if my whole job, if you want to call it a job, is just to show people how awesome they are. To show them that the synchronicities in their life is showing them that's you in harmony with your highest self. You can do anything, you can be anything, you can talk to anything, you can channel anything. You want to speak light languages? You can speak light languages. Come and hang out with me. We'll activate. It's all about what you want, your intention. As soon as you set an intention, it's done. It's us who allow our belief systems that we have been taught that do not belong to us, that prevent it from happening. That's it. It's not, I'm being punished. Crap.
Exactly.
That's crap. That's crap. The only one who's punishing you is you.
Yeah, that's very true. I want to say that we are running out of time. So if you could please tell our listeners your final thoughts, and also where they can find you, we'd really appreciate that. I
am on, right now, I'm not on a lot of media right now, but you could find me on YouTube. Mm-hmm. My YouTube channel is Languages of Lights, with an S on both. My email is exactly the same thing, languagesoflights@gmail.com. And, I do lots of free events. I do lots of light language hangouts. There's a lot of really interesting information coming through in the videos, a lot of beautiful nature. And I just want to let everybody know that you are everything you can imagine yourself to be. Do we have a time for a quick galactic blessing?
Yes, we do.
You just cut me off if you need to, okay?
Okay.
You are one. We are one. We are all created from the one same light. Picture a ball, any ball, and like a sun, tendrils of light shining in every direction like little pores. All of those are you. Little light beings, all shining from the same one light. And as your light gets brighter, the one light gets brighter. When you're in pain, it sends pain to the one light as an experience. And all experiences are wonderful and perfect and joyful, yet they do not need to be painful. Be grateful, for you are one with all, and you are all supported with each other, by the one, for the one, and you create all that you see around you. So be in joy and create joy. Yanaki tarisana lahatuya. Moto yahala yanaki. Soto yala yana yakahalati. Soyaha. Nimorali yanaki alaha koyama koyati. Malahalo hakanyama yuha. Soto yahalaki. Sola haloram yanaki tolukoya. Inaya halahaya. Oyanahi. Soliatai sanaha. Bring your hearts into harmony. In every moment, find joy in your reality. Be in gratitude. For when you are in the vibration of gratitude, there is no room for anything but unconditional love for yourself, your creation, and the reflection before you. Nalukriana. Soya sanya katia samora. When you have these greater understandings, you move through life in a new way, experience life in a new way, experience relationships, your job. The things that you do every day will be more of you, with you. You will express more who you are in what you do. As you find gratitude and love within yourself, you will express this outward in joy. If you are not doing what brings you joy today, you must ask yourself why and begin to do that thing that brings you great joy. For it is only in the action that completes the circuit. For then you are left unfulfilled. You are left with the circuit not joined, not completed. Fill the circuit with joy, and it will ring ripples through the waters of time. Everything affects everything. Everything you do affects everything you do. Be aware of your vibration and your frequency. And when you are unsure, simply ask your spirit guides to assist you. When you do not know how, show me how. I cannot see the way, show me the way. And allow my clarity to see the signs and the symbols of the synchronicities, to show me I'm in harmony, and show me by way of knowing and instinct how to act on that synchronicity in the highest of integrity, in body, mind, and spirit. And is this the best for me? Is this for the truest, highest good for me? Because if it is, it will serve automatically the highest and best for all. You are loved unconditionally and supported beyond measure, beyond your wildest imagination. For the love that you feel for the earth, the child, your animals, that unconditional love you feel is only a fraction of what the Creator feels for you.
Thank you, Wendy, so much. That was very beautiful.
Namaste.
And we look forward to having you on again. I feel very blessed to have had the opportunity to interview you. And once again, for those who are listening who want to connect with Wendy, look for her YouTube video, Languages of Light.